Donc voilà le topo. En fait, ils vont pas utiliser de mixing video console. C'est niet. Ce qu'ils vont faire, c'est prendre depuis la caméra l'image qui passe sur la télé. Ouais, ça ne s'invente pas. Et donc, vous allez avoir cette image-là, qui va pas être top. Et ensuite, ce qu'ils comptent faire, c'est utiliser le son qui va passer dans la salle pour l'envoyer sur vos casques. Ça, c'est l'idée. Donc, voilà. Il n'y a pas un système comme chez nous où l'image elle vient directement du laptop et qui passe dans leur système. Non, désolé. Ok.
So, dear colleagues, please take your seat and then we can proceed and start with our today's meeting. Yeah, okay. No. So, Lukas, take your seat. So, welcome everyone this morning. I'm happy to see all of you here in this impressive hall and part of the Parliament. A warm welcome. After this first meeting we had this morning with our European ambassador and an interesting exchange, I'm optimistic that we can have an even more interesting exchange now on our work we are doing here in our Committee on Political Affairs, Human Rights and Democracy of the UNS Parliamentary Assembly. As you know, unfortunately, our colleagues from Moldova were not able to join with the whole delegation, and therefore, but I'm happy that I have a co-chair this morning. It is Arman Yegoryan, and he will co-chair this meeting together with me. Allow me to extend a warm welcome to all of you, as well to our guest speakers who have kindly accepted our invitation to participate in today's discussions, which will focus on the following items. Our thanks goes to Ms. Hayuki Haruti. Oh, I have difficult names here. I leave it to you. You're better in spelling these complicated names here. You can see it on the you will see the name. It's Ms. Haikui Hatuyunyan. Yes. Is it right? Yes.
Yes, almost correctly. Haikui Hatuyunyan.
An EIP index expert, a member of the Eastern Partnership Civil Society Forum. Mr. Edgar Kachatrian. Director of the Peace Delegation. Hi, nice to see you here. NGO and member of Secretariat Council of the Armenian National Platform, EAP Civil Society Forum. The next names are easier for me. It's Dr. Martin Sieg. He's remote with us here. He is a high-level advisor to the President of the Republic of Moldova. And Mr. Martin Engelby, Senior Advisor at the European Center of Excellence for Countering Hybrid Threat. He will also via video conference taking part today. Before we start our discussions, I shall stress that as part of its agenda, our committee will be voting today on its amended report on the future of the Eastern Partnership and the new prospects of the EU enlargement policy towards the need for peace, security and stability in the region. It was the report which was prepared by Ivan Kulko from Ukraine. I say a warm welcome also to Ivan, and he did this work together with me, which we will, after confirmation by the Bureau, will be then submitted as a motion for resolution to the UNS Parliamentary Assembly for final adoption. We have it tomorrow morning. I would like to note that today's meeting is public and will be web streamed, with interpretation provided in English, German and Russian. That makes it easy for me, so I can later change to German. So, I will now come to the agenda and the question of the adoption of the agenda. Before we begin, are there any objections to today's draft agenda? I don't see this. Then the agenda is adopted. The second item is approval of minutes. The draft minutes of the committee meeting held on 19th March 2024 have been circulated to members and are available in the meeting room. If there are no comments or objections, the minutes shall be considered approved. Okay, thank you. Then I hand over to Arman, and we come to the next point.
Thank you very much, Mr. Schenk, dear co-chair. First of all, let me welcome you in Armenia on behalf of Armenian National Assembly in the National Assembly. It's our pleasure to host the Euronest parliamentary meeting here. And I hope that this meeting will give a new impetus to our work in upcoming future. Dear colleagues, first of all, we have to vote on the draft report on the future of the Eastern Partnership and the new prospects of the EU enlargement policy towards the need for peace, security and stability in the region. Co-rapporteurs Oliver Schenk, European Parliament, and from the European Parliament, and Ivan Krylko from Ukraine. I guess we vote it if there are no objections. Are there any objections about? Yes, about the report. Yes, please, Mr. Khachatyan. Yeah.
It's changed because in Parliament we don't do that. Okay. So when we'll have the chance to talk about the proposed amendments?
Later on. Later on.
After the meeting,
Okay.
they will open a window for a second round of the...
Well, if there are no other objections, then the report is adopted. Please.
This is very confused. If I understood well, we are approving the report and then we are discussing the amendments after the approval of the report?
Please, Mr. Sanchez Amor.
Yeah, well, it's a little
Could
bit
you approach the microphone?
Yeah, it's a little bit confusing to me. Meaning, we are not discussing, there are no amendments pending to be discussed in this part of the meeting? Meaning the only option available is to maintain the amendments for the plenary and not for the political committee?
Well, my script says that we should have a vote now. This is how my script says.
No, first I'm sorry. We have a short presentation of the draft now.
Yeah?
And maybe Ivan can start, yes, and I would...
As I was told by the Secretariat, what you are saying, Mr. Sanchez Amor, should be done afterwards, not now. If you have objections, then we can... Yes, please, Mr. Khachatyan.
Dear colleagues, I think we are it's real confusing because when we adopt the report, then how can we or why shall we talk about the amendments? I think the amendments that have failed to pass, if the authors of the amendments, I think the authors of the amendments shall be given a chance to talk about the amendments.
Yes, of course. Yeah, we will have it. So I would propose that we, so you know that we didn't have the opportunity to have an intense debate on the text so far. So therefore, I would suggest that Ivan and I now give a bit an overview on the text we already agreed on. We had many amendments from your side, and as you know, the Bureau decided that we do it in an electronic vote, and we had in total 35 amendments which were tabled. 24 of them were already adopted. And now I would like to give Ivan the opportunity to give us an overview on this, the paper we prepared. And maybe I can add afterwards some points which are important from my side. And then I will invite you to comment, and then we can also talk on the amendments which you would like to table for tomorrow's plenary, and then we can vote there on them tomorrow.
Thank you, dear co-chairs. It's a privilege for me to be here in Yerevan for 12th Parliamentary Assembly of Euronest, and thank you for Armenia for your hosting us here. I will be very brief. about this document, our report. I think all MPs have chance to read it, and we have amendments to this report. First, I want to express my deepest gratitude to Mr. Schenk for a brilliant job he did while preparing the document. It gives a very sophisticated picture on the future of Eastern Partnership and the new prospect of the EU enlargement policy. I thank members of the European Parliament for their strong amendments on Russia's brutal war against Ukraine and against Europe overall. I am likewise very grateful to the colleagues from partner delegations, my colleagues from Ukrainian Parliament who contributed to the document, and I acknowledge all of you to support it. And as well, I want to say that now we have really chance to talk, to discuss about amendments, to discuss about this document during political committee, the best chance. And as well, I want to say that after political committee, Ukrainian delegation will add a few new amendments. We will vote for them tomorrow during plenary, and I want to present some of them. We strongly condemn the systematic actions of the Russian Federation aimed at the illegal deportation of Ukrainian children from the temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine. These actions are accompanied by the deliberate separation of children from their families and unlawful imposition of Russian citizenship, and attempts to forcibly assimilate them into a culture and identity that bear no connection to their native environment, language, and traditions. Such practice represents a grave violation of international humanitarian law and the fundamental principles of the protection of children's rights. They constitute an assault of the very essence of human dignity and must elicit a united and resolute response from the international community. We call upon all democratic nations and parliaments around the world to intensify cooperation in countering Russian disinformation aimed at concealing of justifying these crimes. It's essential to strengthen our collective resilience against the measure of artificial intelligence for the creation and dissemination of disinformation, and as well as effectively identify and challenge manipulative Russian narratives. Together, we must ensure that truth, justice, and the protection of children remain at the core of our shared international agenda. Our unity and determination are vital to restoring peace, accountability, and humanity. In light of all the above, we propose to expand the provisions of paragraph 11 and 18 of this report, further strengthening its message and sending a clear signal to the entire free world about the urgent need to comfort the evil embodied by the Russian Federation. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Ivan, and also for the already mentioned amendment. I only would like to add 2 or 3 points from my view. And as you already mentioned, the main topics, and you're probably already familiar with the text. I want to highlight 2 points, and one concerns the colleagues of the EP and me. You know that we are now working on the new budget for the next period. And our task is it to reserve and to discuss that we get enough money in the multi-annual framework for the next budget in the Parliament. And the second point I would like to stress is that we, after working on all the topics which are mentioned in the paper, we asked the Commission to organize a political summit in 2027, so that we have the possibility to discuss it in a broader political way. And it was open a good opportunity to look what was achieved and which is still open. And with these 2 points, I would like to invite you to take the floor and to describe how you look on this paper and on the things we prepared. Maybe you would like also to make amendments and to give more contributions for broader discussions. So I would like to invite you, but please limit your interventions to 2 minutes per speaker. Who wants to start? Oh, yes, please, with Ariev, you are the first one.
Thank you, co-chairs. First of all, I would like to express our gratitude from Ukrainian delegation for the hospitality of Armenian side, and we really appreciate it. Not wasting the time, I would like to propose two amendments to the report. First is regarding the situation in within the circumvent of sanctions against Russia on the dual-use goods and military equipment that still Russia gets from many states worldwide. And I have a website of Ukrainian military intelligence. You can, if you would like, come to me and I send you a link to read which country and what exactly supply Russia to produce them effectively missiles and drones that falling down to Ukraine every day. So I do believe that we have to call to strengthen monitoring and sanctioning also third parties and have a really hard response to the supplement of Russian terrorism and Russian war against Ukraine. And the second point is about Georgia. From my point of view, I'm really very upset the revert of democracy there. And we see that there are no way but to have a harsh actions, serious actions to support Georgian civil society, Georgian media, especially independent media, to preserve the rest of democracy and press freedom in the state that were close to membership, to potential membership in European Union, and they turn bad direction from this path. So I think very important also to support Georgian fight for democracy as well. And I'm really, from my side, I really very welcome to sum up my points, Armenian decision to start European integration. This is very important for your country very much, not only to be a member of democratic, the club of democratic states, but also you can have a very big economic and financial advantages in the future of that. So good luck for you, and I hope you will succeed this way. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Volodymyr, and thank you for your amendments. I would like to remind all others that the deadline for amendments for the plenary is tomorrow at 10, and they have to be tabled in English. So we continue, and next one is Raza. And
Yeah, thank you very much. I took the floor just to say a few words here in this important committee, and also would like to express my gratitude and support, not only from my side, but from our EPP, European People Party group, for the work both rapporteurs made and our secretariat on that. Myself, being like a veteran in politics in my country, from Lithuania, and following Eastern Partnership countries and developments in that region since the very beginning of our independence, I remember we had huge hope in the very beginning when we declared independence. By the way, I was one in that parliament, 1990, voted for Lithuanian independence, but also we had January attacks against our independence, and at that time Russian Federation had very different path, and imagine about 1 million people went to the streets in St. Petersburg and Moscow in 1991 to support us, our independence, Lithuanian independence. And we had real hope that it would be much more difficult for Russian Federation to go through the same, democratization of their country. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. Year 2000 was tragic crossroad for this country, and now here in this assembly, for sure, we have this influence, what happened in Russia when Putin came to power, and those countries, they were not able on time to jump out from the sphere of influence, Russian Federation. Now they are suffering a lot, including, of course, Ukraine first of all. So I support very much all those topics, articles they mentioned here, and trying to compare the situation we had last term of European Parliament, and today we have new developments, very positive, which are going here in Yerevan, in Armenia, with the peace agreement possible and so on, and developments in that country, historical developments. But on the other hand, we have Georgia, as standing rapporteur in European Parliament in Georgia, I just for me it's so painful to read in our reports, so very realistic, of course, it's what is happening on the ground, but nevertheless it's so painful for us to read such evaluations about the country, which only few years ago was like a leading country in in Eastern Partnership countries for reforms and for everything we were witnessing. So, but of course, I don't think that is forever will stay the same articles in our future reports. I still believe that Georgians, despite that they are not here today, I think first time in the history of Euronest, we don't have Georgians here in official meetings. I am happy that they are here as those who are observing, at least those people who are fighting in the streets, welcome them here, but nevertheless, I think that this body, this assembly is a platform to evaluate, not only evaluate situation, but also to help each other to fight the same evil. The name of that evil is colonial imperialistic Russian Federation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eraza. I have now 4 more speakers on my list. It's Nacho, chances are more. The next, then I have Lukas Sieper, Gerolf Ammermans, and Arthur Giacomelli. Are there more people who want to take the floor? If not, then I will close the speaking list on this top of the agenda, and we continue with Nacho.
Well, thank you, Oliver. Thank you for your word as Krulko. I would like to mention the extraordinary work of Sergei Lagodiskin, having us here in this political gathering because it has been really a mess to form the issue. And this is a reflect of what is happening in the area politically. We have probably to do a reflection, not now, this is not the right moment, but to reflect on in which way the authoritarian trends in some countries are damaging this kind of gatherings that we created some years ago. I would like to comment on an amendment I would like to table for the plenary. I hope it's not going to be contentious, because it's to mention the Sakharov Prize. The Sakharov Prize went to Georgia and Belarus, two cases of journalists, and I think it's good that we have the time to include a mention on this situation. It's a kind of sour flavor, because it's a recognition to the work of the journalists, but it's also to constate what is happening politically in the area, and this is not good news. But I think it's good that in our political document we recall the fact that the area has been mentioned, has been taken into account in the political rationale of the Parliament when we decided recently to reward two journalists from Georgia and Belarus as the representative of the human rights, or the people fighting for human rights in a very difficult environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Nacho, and if I am allowed to say thank you for this good idea and this amendment. And so we continue with Lucas.
Thank you, Barrio. Dear colleagues, dear friends, first let me thank our Armenian hosts and all of you for being here today, and let me also express my gratitude for the support given to my amendments on the rule of law. They were adopted, and yet just one single vote was missing for these two new paragraphs that I would like to propose on equality and inclusion. I know that these topics are not popular anymore. Across our continent, propaganda from Russia and elsewhere tries to convince people that equality of all human beings is somehow a threat to traditional values. But equality is not the enemy of tradition. All people, regardless of who they are or whom they love, belong to the families of our nations. As a young European who grew up in a free and diverse Europe, I have seen how inclusion strengthens communities in schools, in workplace, in politics. When people feel seen, they stand up for democracy. When they are excluded, democracy itself weakens. Ensuring equal participation for every citizen is not only a moral duty, it's an economic necessity and a democratic imperative. A society that silences part of its people silences part of its potential. LGBTQ plus people, women's rights activists, human rights defenders, they are often the most motivated defenders of democracy itself. If we fail to protect them, we weaken our democracies from within. That's why I asked on all of you to support these paragraphs in the plenary vote, because protecting gender equality, diversity, and human rights, it's not a side issue, it's the foundation of democracy. Shoraka Talayun. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lukas Sieper, and we continue with Gerolf Annemans.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our splendid President, Mr. Lagodinsky, sorry, almost forgot, but I'm representing the Patriots group here in the delegation, in Euronest, and that's how I speak here. This report offers an ambitious vision for the future of the Eastern Partnership, and I can agree with it. With most of its spirit, especially the call for dialogue, stability and cooperation with our eastern neighbors. Indeed, peace, friendship and prosperity in our east flank are also in our own European interests. So, however, I must express my reservations regarding the direction in which this cooperation is being pushed, as I feel it. The Eastern Partnership was never meant to be an automatic waiting room for EU accession. Turning it into such risks undermining the original idea, a pragmatic framework for partnership, not a pre-accession instrument. Moldova, Ukraine, and others deserve support and friendship, but that does not mean automatic or even eventual EU membership. Enlargement cannot become a geopolitical reflex. It must remain a question of capacity, coherence, and the long-term stability of the Union itself. What I also miss in this report is a clear recognition that true democracy begins with the protection of national identity, language and culture. Promoting democracy does not mean exporting uniform political or social models, not compulsive or one-size-fits-all standard society. Diversity within and among European nations is not a weakness, but it is our strength. Finally, as we seek stability in the region, let us focus on what unites us: economic cooperation, energy security, and mutual respect, not the endless expansion of borders or obligations. Strengthening Europe starts with consolidating what we already have before adding new commitments that we may not be able to sustain. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and then we have the chance to vote on it tomorrow. And the last one is Mr. Kachyter-Trian.
Dear colleagues, I warmly welcome you in Armenia. I hope this 12th ordinary session of the European Euronest Parliamentary Assembly will significantly contribute to the strengthening of ties between European Union and countries of Eastern Partnership, as well as will provide an impetus to activate the works of this Assembly. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to bring to your attention the situation in the South Caucasus. Everyone wants peace. No one can say no to peace. However, for the peace to be lasting, it shall be fair, it shall be based on justice. And the justice requires that the vital interests of all parties of the conflict shall be respected, and it requires goodwill on both sides. Unfortunately, we do not see any sign of goodwill on behalf of Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan still keeps under occupation more than 200 square kilometers of sovereign Armenian territory. Azerbaijan still interferes into Armenia's internal issues with different demands. For instance, they say that the precondition for signing a document, a peace treaty, is change of Armenian constitution. Goes against the principles enshrined in Helsinki Final Act, as well as in UN Charter and other international documents. Azerbaijan still uses the word Zangezur corridor, which implies extraterritoriality of the road that is expected to pass through Armenia to link Azerbaijan to Nakhichevan, and that has to provide Armenia connection to the world, through Azerbaijan to west, through Azerbaijan to east and north. Besides that, we shall not ignore the fate of the people of Nagorno-Karabakh, and we shall not close our eyes to the ethnic cleansing, which is type of a genocide committed by Azerbaijan against the people of Nagorno-Karabakh. There is no single Armenian in Nagorno-Karabakh. People that live there for thousands of years were forcibly displaced. Is the civilized world, civilized Europe, going to close its eyes to this? Are we going to tolerate double standards, or are we going to require Azerbaijan to guarantee safe return of the people to their homes, dignified return on the international mechanism to guarantee security of these people? Now, few dozens of Armenians are in jails and under court procedure in Azerbaijan. This assembly shall raise its voice and demand unconditional release of these prisoners, not to address the issue, because if you have the amorphous word address the issue, Azerbaijan can say, well, everything is under law according to Azerbaijan legislation, and close its eyes that they've forced the Red Cross out of the country. So the 23 people in the court and few dozen of people in the jails do not have any link, any connection to the world, and the world doesn't know what's happening to them. You can see the footages, the suffering on the faces of these people. So this assembly unequivocally has to demand immediate release, and also has to demand Azerbaijan to stop destruction of Armenian cultural and religious monuments. And I'm going to table an amendment that will send a message from this assembly to Azerbaijan that this assembly is not going to tolerate these inhumane acts by Azeri fascist regime. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Arthur, and thanks to all who made these interventions. Those who want to make from their intervention amendments are reminded again that the deadline for amendments is tomorrow at 10 a.m. and the amendments have to be tabled in English. So now we can proceed to the vote, and we will vote by show of hands. And then I would like to ask who approves the report as amended. Who is against? Abstentions? Then we, with a broad consensus, have a report which is adopted. Thank you very much. And can you please show again who approved the report so that they can count the votes? Yeah? Okay. So then thank you very much. And I would like to hand over to Aman, and then we can come to our presentations.
Thank you very much, Mr. Schenk. Moving on to our fourth agenda item, I'm pleased to welcome Ms. Haykuhi Harutyunyan, who is Eastern Partnership Index expert and member of the Eastern Partnership Civil Society Forum, and thank her for her presence with us today in Yerevan. Ms. Harutyunyan will present the 2025 edition of the Eastern Partnership Index. Please, Ms. Harutyunyan.
Honorable members of European Parliamentary Assembly, dear colleagues, thanks on behalf of Civil Society Platform for this opportunity to present key findings of 2025 ENP Index. I would walk you through the main trends and insights, but also provide the main recommendations the findings would confirm to proceed with for the more democratic development in the region. With this unique civil society produced analytical tool that monitors the pace of reform, the strength of democracy institutions, and depth of the European integration in 6 partner countries: Armenia, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Georgia, Moldova, and Ukraine. In the assessment of the reforms, the index evaluates progress across 3 main spheres: democracy, good governance, rule of law, policy convergence with EU, EU and sustainable development. Drawing on the expertise of more than 60 independent analytical and civil society organizations from the region, the index blends quantitative data with qualitative analysis to provide insightful trends, but also insightful recommendations. There are trends of development, but also, unfortunately, the backslide. Since 2023, when the ENP Secretariat presented the index, within the same framework of the parliamentary committee, new trends emerged in the region. While we see that Moldova and Ukraine continue their commitment in the region to approximate the practice, but also the entire system with the European Union. Unfortunately, for 2025, we see also the backslide from Georgian side, and unfortunately the trends that move Georgia towards Belarus and Azerbaijan. In the mid, we see also great commitment from the Republic of Armenia for the integration, and this has been already confirmed not only by the bill passed by the National Assembly, but also by the practice and developments inside the country. By contrast, as it has been already mentioned, Georgia, which has traditionally been part of the trio, including Moldova and Ukraine, has experienced a severe democratic reversal. The index records significant decline in checks and balance, freedom of expression, and judicial independence. These shifts from democratic backslides to over-authoritarianism was already announced by the 2023 edition, and unfortunately has been confirmed also in 2025. Moving on, the index highlights the electoral and judicial institutions remain fragile in entire region. In many cases, vulnerable to political interference, those institutions were not able strongly to sustain the challenge, and this is also confirmed by the processes in Georgia, Azerbaijan, where we see that election commissions and courts lack full independency, undermining both public trust and accountability of those institutions. On the other hand, with its last parliamentary elections in Moldova, we have some hope and lessons on democratic resilience, including also the recent trends of technology and specifically AI developments in electoral processes. Another area of progress that the index scores illustrates the potential of constructive engagement in the area of transport and connectivity, which over the past years have improved significantly, driven by harmonization with EU standards and establishment of the ENP Traffic Observatory in Tbilisi. Although the picture remains mixed, some of identified positive trends show that where partnership is genuine and institutions are open to reform, progress remains possible even amid instability. And in this regard and in this context, I would now proceed with the recommendations that would be vital to consider for the development. In the area of democracy, rule of law, and civic space, to sustain democratic transformation, EU has continued its engagement, remaining firmly anchored in conditionality and accountability for local governments, and this means that the support should be directly linked to measurable respect for fundamental freedoms, such as freedom of expression, association, and assembly. Equally, it is vital and directly linked to the findings, the cooperation with civil society organizations, civic activists, and experts. The work in defending the rule of law, promoting transparency, and safeguarding human rights deserves more target and more support from the EU side. And in this current environment where we see the trends of shrinking civil society space, it's really vital that EU continues its engagement and meaningful support to civil society. In the area of anti-corruption and institutional integrity, strengthening the integrity system across the region must remain a shared priority for everyone. While we see that there are some developments at the institutional level, there is still a lack of effective operation of audit and anti-corruption institutions that are not able to sustain but also hold full accountability for local governments. Beyond the general anti-corruption efforts, the whistleblower protection framework in the region remains one of the most fragile aspects of anti-corruption work, while we see that there is a trend of having legal grounds like the law that exists in Armenia, Moldova, and Ukraine. Implementation is very weak and almost to zero. And beyond the legislation, a broader cultural shift is needed. And in that regard, this could be one of the conditionalities from the EU side for local governments. Public administration reform and accountability remains one of the most important aspect for democratic development in the region. Countries still struggle to uphold these principles due to challenges related to recruitment, low pay, and untransparent hierarchical structures in public administration. A more systemic approach to monitor and evaluate governance reforms is needed, and EU technical support and assistance in this regard also would be withheld for local governments, but also for the local civil society and independent experts. Peer review mechanism involving both EU and non-EU experts and inclusive of opposition, and especially the opposition voices, for the development of public administration reform agenda, but also for the genuine implementation of this kind of agendas are really essential. And the findings would encourage the EU to partner, but also promote this kind of inclusive implementation of public administration reform. In addition to this, it is worth mentioning that consultations with civil society are really important in this regard as well. Good practices have been noticed in Moldova, where the government has made commitments to engage regularly with civil society, but unfortunately this is not institutional practice and it is not shared by other member countries from Eastern Partnership region. Economic and sectoral cooperation. Economic resilience requires sustained technical support for institutions, digitalization, and strong growth of small and medium-sized enterprises. The EU, in this regard, can play a decisive role in highlighting partner countries and their needs for the development of medium-sized enterprises, but also providing relevant technical support like in the approximation process to make these medium-sized entrepreneurs and their products available also for the EU market. It's particularly important to extend the trade liberalization measures for Ukraine and Moldova beyond 2025, but also take this notice and look at other countries, including my own country, Armenia, where the potential is there, but there is a lack of technical support, but also commitment from the EU side move this agenda. Energy and sustainability. The energy sector in the ENP region, highlighted by the index, is mentioning that there is a need and strong requirement for deeper cooperation between civil society organizations and national authorities. In comparison, if we see that in the agenda of human rights, public administration reform, and in general for the democracy, there is a traditional engagement of civil society. In regard to energy and sustainability sector, this trend is not there, and it is requiring that special or some kind of institutional tools and mechanisms has be established across the region to promote the engagement of civil society in this sector as well. We see also that over the past editions of the index, we keep repeating that the maintaining and consistent approach towards Azerbaijan is essential, and if future energy and trade agreements with Azerbaijan especially has to be made on the basis of conditionality to promote human rights, democracy and good government agenda locally. Otherwise, this engagement with the Azerbaijan without not maintaining and meeting all the requirements of democracy sends the mixed signals, and it's not a good trend for other countries. Connectivity and transport integration. Transport and connectivity remains one of the most promising area for the cooperation in the region. Continued EU support is needed again in this regard to empower civil society expertise in promoting transport safety and sustainability, integrating in Eastern Partnership countries, particularly Ukraine and Moldova, into the trans-European transport network must remain straight priority. This would include also technical guidance and also technical support, not only for these countries, but as I mentioned also to Armenia, to upgrade and modernize the infrastructure and to somehow eliminate logistical barriers. The establishment of 10T urban nodes and the development of sustainable urban mobility plans in partner countries will further enhance integration and reduce emission and align the region fully with the Europeans' agenda and green and digital policy agenda. I would like to conclude mentioning that the Eastern Partnership Index in 2025 presents both challenge and an opportunity. It reminds all of us that the progress is uneven and fragile, yet it also demonstrates that where there is political will, civic resilience, and genuine partnership, reform continues even under most difficult circumstances. For the European Union and for the Assembly, the task ahead is to ensure that our engagement, referring to civil society, remains principled, consistent, and forward-looking. The Eastern Partnership countries look to the European Union not as assistance, but for the genuine partnership and cooperation, building resilience, democracy, and transparency, justice, and human dignity support for local democracy. I would like to conclude by thanking for this opportunity again and encouraging to find more findings and details in each area presented through the QR code presented there, but also through the website of the Eastern Partnership Civil Society Forum. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Harutyunyan, for the very interesting presentation, which I'm sure will be a start of very interesting discussion. Are there any thoughts, comments on the presentation, dear colleagues? Please, Mr. Lagodinsky.
Thank you so much, and thanks for presenting. I've been listening for the second time. We had a presentation in the European Parliament, which was also very instructive, with a lot of representatives of civil society. You mentioned one thing, one key phrase that I thought would be interesting to explore a little bit deeper. You said that the countries do not see the mode of operations and of collaboration, do not see it as support or as assistance, but want to see it as a partnership. How would you spell it out? What do you mean? Because they told you something that you know, so how would you operationalize partnership from that perspective in terms of their expectations?
Thanks for the question, and I think this is one of the most important areas to be developed further. If we look at the findings of the index, and this is again mostly based on the civil society perspective, I will use comparison from the countries like Georgia, Ukraine, and Moldova, where the different type of agreement with the EU helped also to establish different forms of cooperation and partnership with civil society and independent experts. And under the treaty and the agreement signed, there are a number of different structures with civil society engagement. When it comes to other sectors, and unfortunately this is only for these countries, this is only for the trade sector and the heaviest sector, democracy, rule of law, and human rights. As I mentioned, when we look at other areas like energy, connectivity, and other sectors, this institutionalized way of engagement with the civil society is not there. It is very fragile. It depends on circumstances and in general on the local governments instead of having requirement within the sectoral plans or any kind of activities that the EU has with the government. And because of that, the trends that we see, we can also observe that, for example, in the economic sector, engagement of civil society almost not. And I speak here mainly about Armenian trend, because as I mentioned, in Ukraine and Moldova, it's a little bit different. So we would really appreciate more structural engagement with the civil society at all levels. It means that civil society has to be part of the development at the expertise level, at the level of influencing decision making, monitoring, and evaluation.
Any comments? No? Any other? Please, Mr. Schenk.
Thank you very much for this interesting and instructive overview. And you mentioned reforms, of course, and especially also reforms in the administration. So I'm coming from a part of Germany in the east part, which joined European Union in 1990. And many other colleagues joined European Union even later. Our administration made many experiences in reaching this acquis communautaire. And so I would know, do you have any experience here, or do you know about it with so-called twinning projects, where we give our experience in establishing these new standards? How can we transform? What can you learn from how we made it? The best way to learn is from the mistakes we made, so you can avoid them. Yeah, I don't know if you maybe can tell us a little bit about experience, and maybe this is also a field where we could do some more in the future.
Again, thanks. This is another great area to look at for further development. And I would just like to recall my own experience, but also mention some examples from other countries. So twinning projects and the frame that is there, it's for all countries. Moreover, for Moldova, Ukraine, and Georgia, there was more kind of twinning type of projects to be engaged, and this was really great experience. We had it in Armenia, twinning project for different areas of public administration, but back then there was special scheme for public administration reform for Eastern Partnership countries that allowed not only to exchange the experience with the European side, but between each other. So this was really a good platform provided to support also, as you mentioned, learning from own mistakes, but also sharing what should not be done further. If those kind of initiatives are promoted again by the EU side, that would be a great support for local government, civil society, and the independent experts to learn from European side, but also exchange the relevant experience within the region.
Thank you very much. Any other thoughts, comments? If not, then we proceed to other presentation, and I invite Mr. Schenk for giving the floor to the other guest.
Okay, yes, for the next point on the agenda, I would like to thank our experts for their availability and presence, both with us in Yerevan and via video conference from Helsinki and Chisinau. The security landscape in the Eastern Partnership region has been fundamentally reshaped by a new era of instability and confrontation. Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine has redrawn the regional order, exposing deep vulnerabilities in the Eastern Partnership countries and testing their capacity to withstand hybrid threats, meddling interference or full-scale war. Today, peace and stability in the region depend not only on traditional defense measures, but also on the resilience of our institutions, economies and societies. Strengthening this resilience against both visible and non-linear forms of aggression should become a strategic priority for the EU and the Eastern Partnership countries alike. Our discussion today will focus on how the Eastern Partnership can evolve to meet these new realities, placing security cooperation and resilience at the heart of its framework. This requires political will, deeper coordination between the EU and partner countries, the sharing of expertise, and a comprehensive approach that integrates security, governance, and societal resilience. I now would like to invite Mr. Khachatryan, who is Director of the Peace Dialogue NGO and member of the EIP Civil Society Forum Secretariat Council of the Armenian National Platform, to take the floor. Mr. Khachatryan is present in the room. You have the floor for 7 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Honorable co-chairs, members of the Euronest Parliamentary Assembly, distinguished colleagues, thank you for the opportunity to share reflections from civil society on how we can strengthen security cooperation across the Eastern Partnership region. We meet at a time when the foundations of European and regional security are being fundamentally tested. The Russian Federation's full-scale invasion of Ukraine has reshaped the security environment in the Eastern Partnership region and more broadly in Europe. This war has revealed how deeply intervened military aggression, hybrid warfare, and democratic resilience have become in today's world. Each Eastern Partnership country faces its own version of the same challenge: external interference aimed at dividing societies and weakening democratic institutions. While Ukraine continues to defend its sovereignty on the battlefield, Moldova and Georgia confront sustained hybrid pressure through disinformation and political manipulation. In Armenia, many hybrid threats originate from the same source. These threats take the form of economic pressure, political manipulation, and disinformation campaigns, and are not limited to election-related interference. They also aim to undermine the peace agenda and distort public perceptions of the European Union and democratic values. We therefore need a shared understanding that security is not only about borders and armies, it is also about the strength of democratic institutions and social cohesion. We need a new culture of security cooperation that integrates defense and democratic reform and oversight, and links national security with human security. Such cooperation must be multi-layered. Governments and parliaments must lead, but civil society and independent media must also be integral actors. They are often the first to detect early warning signs of hybrid manipulation and to provide credible counter-narratives. We should aim to strengthen parliamentary oversight mechanisms and invest jointly in strategic communication capacities. Each Eastern Partnership partner brings unique experience. Moldova in countering disinformation, Ukraine in defense reforms under extreme pressure, Armenia in post-conflict peace building and democratic transformation. Hybrid warfare begins long before physical aggression. It targets minds, narratives, and trust. That is why democratic governance, transparency, and the rule of law must remain at the heart of every security reform strategy. In Armenia, we have seen how external actors exploit internal divisions, fueling polarization, amplifying fears, and spreading the idea that democracy threatens security. But let me be clear, Armenians do not want the future of Belarus. We do not want to live in a country where dissent is silenced, where foreign military presence dictates national policy, or where citizens are deprived of their right to choose their path. Our future must be based on independent decision-making, accountable institutions, and democratic reforms. And I sincerely hope that our Belarusian partners will find all the strength to overcome autocracy and lead their country onto a democratic path. To protect that future, we need joint mechanisms to identify and counter hybrid operations. This would allow us to expose the origins and methods of hybrid interference and respond in a coordinated, evidence-based way. For Armenia, 2025 represents a historic and delicate juncture. The initiated peace agreement with Azerbaijan is not the end point. It is the beginning of a fragile and evolving process that requires commitment, transparency, and political courage from the parties. This development has brought cautious optimism to the South Caucasus. It opens the door to potential stability, regional connectivity, and cooperation. Yet, peace remains fragile and reversible, especially as external actors attempt to manipulate public sentiments and exploit insecurity to undermine normalization. As many say, the devil is in details. There are still many fundamental questions that need to be addressed. How and under what circumstances will Donald Trump-mediated trip route function? How will this complement Armenia's crossroads of peace policy, bearing in mind that regional powers such as Iran, Turkey, and Russia all want their share in it? Consider Azerbaijan's demand to change the Armenian constitution, specifically the reference to Declaration of Independence, which Baku perceives as territorial claim. Although Armenian authorities have repeatedly stated that according to the decision of the Constitutional Court, this reference cannot be a deal breaker. Armenia has nonetheless been planning a full review of its constitution through a democratic process. But what will happen if in a democratically organized referendum, Armenian society votes against the new constitution? Will that create a casus belli? Therefore, peace building must not happen in isolation. It must be reinforced by local dialogue, humanitarian engagement, and confidence building between communities long divided by conflict. Addressing displacement, missing persons, hostages, and prisoners of war, the post-war trauma is essential for genuine reconciliation. At the same time, Armenia's democratic reform must continue. Peace cannot come at the cost of democracy. Here is the European Union's role is crucial. The EU mission in Armenia, EUMA, continues to play a vital part in fostering stability along the border. Continued EU engagement through investments in connectivity, reforms, support for peace-oriented projects, and monitoring, and through platforms for civil society and parliamentary dialogue can help transform the peace agreement into a foundation for trust. Moreover, long-term investment in economic stability, education, media literacy, and the development of democratic institutions, justice sector reforms, and security sector reforms will remain our most effective defense against external manipulation. Security and democracy are not competing priorities. They sustain one another. I personally wish for Armenia to become a full member of the European family. As civil society, we stand ready to continue working with parliaments, governments, and our European partners to make this vision a reality. Our region should not be defined by the threats we face, but by the resilience, cooperation, and courage with which we face them. And at the end, distinguished partners and colleagues, I would like to invite all interested in distinguished colleagues who will be in town to take part in the multi-stakeholder discussion initiated by our organization, Peace Dialogue, in partnership with DICAF and the Eastern Partnership Civil Society's Armenian platform on the topic of Armenia's democratic resilience, safeguarding democracy against hybrid threats through dialogue and peer learning. It will take place at the Holiday Inn Hotel and starting at 9 a.m. on October 29th and 30th. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Edgar, for this informative and interesting and instructive perspective you offered to us. And I would like to ask the colleagues if there are direct questions to Edgar now. Otherwise, we will give the two other speakers the possibility to give their presentation, and then we have a discussion on all three. Okay, so then I would like to give the floor to Dr. Martin Sieg. He is the EU high-level advisor to the President of the Republic of Moldova. He has served as a senior advisor to German and international governmental and non-governmental organizations, and was most recently director of the Konrad Adenauer Foundation in Romania and in the Republic of Moldova. Dr. Sieg, you have the floor, and if I'm right informed, you should be on the screen. So I would like to ask our colleagues here in the room to switch the screen. I hope it works. Give them some seconds. So I don't see Mr. Sieg at the moment, but I see the name of the next speaker, and maybe we can try to start. Martin. So, okay. Now we see someone on the screen. Yeah, maybe Mr. Engeby, you can hear us? Oh, he's not reacting. Okay, now. This is Dr. Sieg, I think. Can you hear us? No. Obviously, he's not reacting there. Mr. Sieg, can you listen to us? Can you hear us? Hello?
Good morning.
Good morning. Finally, Dr.
Good morning.
Sieg, is it
I
you?
understand it is my turn.
So,
because
then
I
it's
have just
now
some
you have the
connection
floor.
problem.
You have the floor. Thank you very much for joining our meeting today. And we are here in Yerevan, in the National Parliament. And we are now ready to listen to you, and you have the floor.
Very well. Good morning from Chisinau. Dear ladies and gentlemen, I will predominantly speak about the Republic of Moldova, of course. I start with a short disclaimer that the views I'm giving you are only my own, not that of any institution, neither the government nor the European Union as a whole. I will first start to speak a little bit about the question of which kind of threats Moldova has actually been facing and how to respond to that and what place then international cooperation can place in addressing it. First, hybrid warfare, the point of disinformation. Now, what we have experienced, like other countries here, is of course a massive campaign of propaganda, hate speech, all sorts of propaganda in a wide array of issues, practically testing out everybody that might discredit authorities, European Union, and so on. This was amplified by the fact that mass media in Moldova enjoy little trust and social media a lot. I think this is not untypical for the region. So social media in particular and channels like Telegram being, a main conveyor of that. And considerable resources have been put into that, apparently. Second point, destabilization effects. And no, that starts with paid demonstrations or the attempt to put out paid demonstrations. It means also that certain actors have tried massively to recruit violence, eventual violent groups, or to stir up violence in the population, which did not work. Then attempts to bring up violent actors from abroad, bomb threats, threats against the infrastructure, and so on. I think this is also not completely untypical, and nothing of that really materialized. And one reason is through which kind of actors this all has been attempted. And here, of course, we see that Moscow, or let's say Russian actors, have massively working with or exploiting existing corrupt and oligarchic networks to do it. So very toxic actors that build that build. Just one question. I get some kind of background information. Is there any kind of question in that respect involved, or should I just go on? Okay, I just go on. The Russians have used these kind of networks in particular to build up structures of different actors that distributed cash, that mobilized people for demonstration, and in particularly for electoral fraud. However, this doesn't even mean that the whole, let's say, what we call here pro-Russian opposition was in that. Even some of these groups, which are effectively organized crimes, were practically rather isolated by part of the opposition itself. And then finally, one of the attempts to really destabilize a country, and perhaps the one in which most money went, was electoral fraud. And that used predominantly two methods. Number one was to use precisely these networks of oligarchic structures, organized crime groups, to distribute cash to the people, so practically direct vote buying. And the second one was digital instruments, in particular the Russian PSP Bank apparently was heavily involved, where people could practically sell their votes with digital measures and digital payments. And this is also how we can a little bit assess the magnitude of this kind of enterprise. It was apparent, in particularly in the first round of the presidential election and at the referendum of the EU. So alone with this kind of PSP bank, it was 138,000 telephone accounts and probably $39 million, which may have actually went into that. And we had an overall participation in that election of approximately 1.5 million voters. Yeah, and probably you have here rather the tip of the iceberg. Now, in the first round of the presidential election, that really had probably a massive impact. and led to the near failure of the referendum on European integration. It passed narrowly, but it was far narrower than expected, and than it would have been in any previous elections. And it was particularly because these digital attempts to buy votes were probably not really recognized sufficiently in advance by the authorities. So this went rather unseen. And had the effect that approximately 10% to 15% of the vote were more or less bought. These are, of course, estimates, but they can be validated against the different kind of electorates we had first, second round, and then in the parliamentary election. Between the first and the second round of the presidential election, we had overall 100,000 voters more, but it was overall a change of more than 300,000 voters. So more than 200,000 voters that participated in the first round didn't turn up in the second, while 300,000 additional voters turned up in the second round. This is a very unusual pattern. It was also a very unusual pattern if you look within the country, which regions voted and so on. So you can practically establish that in this range, approximately 10% of the electorate, this was the size of electoral fraud, or let's say additional electoral fraud to that what is practically used. And that has this massive shift. And this is why the first round of the presidential election fell so far apart. Now, in the first round of the presidential election or after it, police and authorities noticed that and could, before the second round of the presidential election, do a lot of things to prevent it from happening again, like fining people, making it public, and so on. And that had an effect on all previous elections. And in fact, the very fact that we had this size of electoral fraud in the first round, very obvious in the whole population, actually shifted the whole narrative for all previous elections. Actually, it mobilized the people against these kind of actors which were doing it and in favor of European election. So in a short notice, it really recorded some kind of a success in terms of having the European integration referendum only passed by a very small margin, but in the long run, it clearly backfired by mobilizing the people very heavily, actually, in favor of the pro-European cause. Now, most of actually these kind of attempts to destabilize a country were largely actually addressed and defeated by government effort. So it was Moldovan authorities predominantly which learned, and also Moldovan society which reacted. Yeah, but international cooperation also played at least to an extent, a role. And so I will very briefly give you a summary of what kind of cooperation we have had. First, and that is an area that I didn't mention yet, military cooperation. No, military cooperation in Moldova played not the biggest of all roles. The country has always relied on its neutrality, and nobody ever thought here about military solutions for any kind of the conflicts that were in the region. But of course, this also meant that Moldova practically lacked air defenses, even sufficient air surveillance. And with the help, in particularly of the EU in the framework of the European Peace and Defense Facility, that was largely addressed. At least a minimum of defense capacity has been happening. You are probably all aware that Moldova always supported or showed solidarity to Ukraine. And Moldova has always, with respect to all these kind of supplies, made it clear that whatever support it receives, Ukraine should come first. A second area which was highly important in international cooperation was cybersecurity. For Moldova had to be very concerned, of course, for its infrastructures. And in this respect, the European Union, in particularly in the cooperation in PESCO, sent a lot of experts, helped the country in building up its cybersecurity. We have not really recorded any kind of threats really materializing in this actor. Even shortly after the beginning of the war, the European Union set up here EU partnership mission, which very much helped in addressing these kind of threats, provided equipment, provided advice, helped in building up a national crisis management center that allowed for a better coordination of the different law enforcement agencies and intelligence to address all these threats. And in the area of disinformation, most of the aid came in form of projects via various different actors, both in helping to build up a Moldovan Stratcom Center, so a center for strategic communication and combating disinformation, but I suppose even more important, in mobilizing civil society. Civil society here, or specialized civil society institutions, were crucial in addressing a lot of these disinformation attempts, and particularly on social media. Most important in all this is not so much the question of international cooperation, but practically the national level. As I said, the attempts to undermine the country have rather backfired, and have also in the last election results shown a considerable level of social mobilization, actually to protect a little bit the country and its possibility to make its own choices. But what remains for the future remain two things. I think one thing is the continued international involvement. I think that is a more or less granted thing. In that respect, I think it was very helpful, in particular that the European Parliament again in the Moldovan election was here with a very robust observatory mission. And one of the areas where I think international cooperation can still be considerably enhanced is how to deal with social media platforms and their role. We had in the past at least some kind of cooperation with French help when it came to the question of Telegram channels. Today, Telegram is not cooperating with anybody, and Moldova anyway, as a small country, has practically no leverage on that. So, and this of course also goes for a number of other social media platforms used for distributing fake news, propaganda, and so on. So that, I think, is a huge area where particularly the smaller countries in the region would need far stronger European cooperation to gain some leverage in order to fight that. This is certainly something one cannot do its own. No, I think I have already overextended my speaking time, and therefore I put a stop here and say thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sieg, for your availability this morning, but especially for your stimulating introduction and for sharing with us your valuable insights on the situation in the Republic of Moldova. I think there's many beef for further discussions, but before we come to discussion and an exchange, I would like to give the floor to Mr. Martin Engelby. He is the Senior Advisor at the European Center of Excellence for Countering Hybrid Threats and is connected remotely from Helsinki. Good morning to Helsinki. Oh, he cannot listen to us. Huh? Can you hear us? So maybe you can.
They will shift. They will shift the mic.
Hello? No? Who has the floor now? So he's waiting for us. You see it, and he originally wants to speak, but unfortunately,
maybe we could turn off.
Done at the screen. Hello? There's someone working with the cursor. Still.
Yeah, it's our stuff.
So give us one more minute, and then if not, then we have to can continue here with the discussion. Can you hear? Our team here says that you have to open the microphone.
Yes. I guess he hasn't turned it on.
Because can you? So for the moment it doesn't work, so I would like to continue here in the room, because we had two very interesting contributions to our debate so far. That what was coming from Mr. Sieg and Khachitrian, and so I would like to invite you to debate on it and to comment. And I have Volodymyr, you would like to start?
Yes, thank you, Chair. First of all, I have a question to Mr. Sieg. He said that about the participation of Russian opposition in such an actions that paid off from Russian Federation. Am I right understood? If it's right, could you please to precise? Do you have any names or facts? Because it's really very interesting that, as well as we sometimes see that Russian opposition could be only named as Russian opposition. That's a question, and then I think we can continue the discussion afterward, after the last speaker will end it up. So.
Okay, I understood you addressed the question to me. I have the problem that I have a very bad tone and always get, I suppose, here directly the Armenian translation more than the original question. But I admit I didn't really get what your question was. Can you perhaps repeat it? Sorry.
Yes. You said that there were in Europe some actions that backed by Russian governments and some opposition, Russian opposition, who named itself as a Russian opposition, took part in that. Maybe you can tell more about that, if I right understood you. Thank you.
Yeah, what we have seen here are, of course, first a massive distribution of money and vote buying and the attempt to pay for practically, paid demonstrations by a number of actors obviously affiliated with Russia. This was particularly through some kind of networks closely linked to previous oligarchs, and actors which are actually so toxic that these actions were not necessarily supported even by the whole opposition. What we saw here was indeed in terms of electoral fraud and in terms of disinformation, a really massive campaign to destabilize a country and turn around results in terms of money, in terms of efforts, in terms of the whole size of the disinformation campaign.
Thank you. More questions here in the room? No, or comments? Are already welcome. Yes, please, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's a very pity that our experts are not present in the room, because my comment is regarding Mr. Khachitrian's presentation. Well, I do agree with Mr. Khachitrian, not Arthur Khachitrian, Edgar Khachitrian. I think all of the Armenians doesn't want to live in a country like that. Of course not. I don't really believe that any human being on earth would like to live in that country. But I'm surprised that there is not a single word in his presentation regarding the fact that indeed, in some cases, we are living in such a state. We have more than 40 political prisoners. And I do understand that the politician, an MP oppositional, who is stating that maybe it could be left out of scope of the presentation, but the resolution of the EPP stating that Armenia has political prisoners, I'm really surprised how this fact is out of the scope of this presentation. Well, we are in a country where oppositional MPs are jailed, one of our colleagues, where 3 archbishops are jailed, but all of them on fabricated, politically motivated crimes, mecenas, mayors, dissidents, in one word, more than 40 people. And I'm really surprised that it's not in the presentation. I'm also surprised that there is no mentioning of police brutality towards peaceful protesters. It happened, there are reports on that from several international organizations. I'm also very surprised that there is not a single word on dependent judiciary. Again, very many international organizations have stated that the judiciary in our country has problems and is controlled by the government, but not a single word on it. So, I had to speak about that. It's why I'm here in the parliament. And it would be very good if in future the reports and the presentations would include the real reality, not those rainbows that are usually presented in such presentations. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Arthur, I don't know where he is now. Maybe he's coming back. But I had the impression that Arthur wanted to go in the same direction, and then we can go to Sergei. Please, Arthur.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, I want to raise my voice and warn against the serious backslide of democracy in Armenia. As my colleague mentioned, we have more than 40 political prisoners in the jail, with charges ranging from staging coup d'etat or attempts of staging coup d'etat to bribery. And the accusations in staging coup d'etat are basically grounded in the prosecutors and investigators' reading of mind these people were thinking about. What have they done? Where is the direct crossing the frontier between intention that nobody can read and action? Our colleague, member of our faction, is in the jail. He was in the jail where this parliament opened. He was there for 6 months and was released after the Constitutional Court said it is illegal having an MP in the jail without consent of the parliament. Any consequence? Who was punished for that? There is a person in the jail just for a remark. If the attacks on the church continue, we will oppose by our means. And the prosecutors, and by the way, the general prosecutor was ex-aide to the prime minister. A politically exposed person is the head of the prosecutor, is the chief prosecutor. And this gentleman is in jail, and his band are banned. An attorney at law, a defender, just for his Facebook status saying that for what the judges and prosecutors and the investigators do, they will find their punishment in the heavens. Punishment in the heavens. This was classified as an offense to the law enforcement agency. He was arrested by commandos brutally, and he is detained for 2 months without right of visiting him. attack on local self-government. Head of the second largest city, mayor of the second largest city, member of opposition, not from our party, is in jail with an alleged request for bribes. And you know how many people went from Yerevan to arrest him? A full police regiment. Commandos, riot police, equivalent of National Guard. They stormed into the city council. The elected mayor of the third largest city was arrested. He spent about 2.5 years in the jail. Mayors of other towns, opposition members, are in jails. An opposition mayor was killed. And the guys were arrested for killing him, for murder, are members or linked or have relations to the leading party. I'm not blaming the leading party. I respect the presumption of innocence. But if you go to that town, there are rumors. And the one who was arrested, again, he has links with a leading member of a leading party. Press. Okay? How many claims are against the press in the courts, in the court appeals? How many million drams of civil cases from the leading party, from the executive branch against the press? And the leading human rights organization are ringing the bells, and this assembly cannot pretend it does not see, it does not hear. Thank you.
Thank you. And Sergey, you raised your hand. You would like to continue, or?
Well, maybe not continue, but I mean, first of all,
another point.
We are aware of those accusations and of these discussions here in the country. So don't think that we take it lightly. What we hear also from different voices, and this is something that we do address also in our exchanges when we talk to the politicians from all sides here. But I wanted to, so thank you for once again alerting us to this dimension. I wanted to once again pose a question to Mr. Sik, who is not there anymore. There is in Hansen, but I'm not sure if it's Mr. Sik. Because it's important for me, but also for Raza and for some others, because we work also with representatives of opposition, of anti-war and anti-Putin voices from Russia. Did we understand correctly that they were part of paid, Russia government paid actions or not? I just want to have this clarified, because this makes our work probably also impossible in the future if this was the case. I saw the other way around. I saw actually some people who supported Maya Sandu and who supported the pro-European events from the side of anti-Putin forces in Russia. But I think for Raza, for myself, who work also with those people in the parliament, it's important to know, was it the case or was it not the case?
We will ask Mr. Sik if he could hear your question, and he is still with us. But unfortunately, I have the impression that he's not any longer with us here. So sorry, Sergey, I think he didn't get it. So sorry for that. I don't know if we are able to reconnect. And I know there are two more questions here in the room, but I would like to ask if Mr. Engelby can hear us. Now he's reacting, and yeah, so try to open your microphone, then we can hear you here. But it doesn't work. So I have to. ask our technician? Yeah.
I hear you.
Yes, now we hear you too. Perfect. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm so sorry about the connection. I had perfect connection yesterday. I don't know what it is. I'm really happy to be here. I was asked quite late to join the meeting, but it's very timely because actually this afternoon I'm taking a flight to Armenia. So I'm sad that I didn't actually come yesterday because I could have been with you in person. I work for the European Center of Excellence for Countering Hybrid Threats. It's an organization with around 60 people working. It's a membership organization. Members of the EU and NATO are eligible, and all members of EU and NATO are actually members. It's financed by the member states. We have a lot of seconded personnel, and what we do is in the name. We are really trying to understand hybrid threats. Personally, I actually spent the last 3 years in Moldova as the head of the National Democratic Institute. We had a long-standing program there, working on many of the issues mentioned by the previous speaker. Now, with changes in U.S. foreign policy, some of these initiatives were terminated. I also find it really interesting that we're still meeting as an Eastern Partnership, because I remember very well when the Eastern Partnership was started, and we can see that good ideas are slow to die. I think this is an important format. I think it's the right people around the table to discuss the right issues. And I think that I may repeat this at the end of my presentation. But the basic bottom line is that if you say yes to Europe, Europe will say yes to you. I mean, it's really on the neighboring states to say we want to be a European country. Well, then you have to adjust your institutions, your practices. You have to eradicate corruption. You have to have an independent judiciary, etc. You cannot be dominated by oligarchs, etc. Now, if you're not ready to give those kinds of things up, then you cannot join Europe. It's as simple as that. Now, coming to hybrid threats, it's very easy to fall into to the area of disinformation, and this is where it all started. But actually, if we look at hybrid threats, it's a much broader agenda, and it is a war. Our big neighbor to the east has declared war on the east, or it sees itself as being in war, and it is fighting a war on all fronts, and information is just one of them. Now, the thing with hybrid threats, it's at best, for the perpetrator, they're non-attributable. They are, very importantly, lower than the threshold for Article 5. So you do not want to get into a real kinetic war, because that would be very, very difficult to win. And the objective is really to limit the choices of the government, to keep them busy with a lot of problems, both political and physical, so that they cannot resist you in other places. And in some ways, we can see that the attacks on West European countries, on the members of the European Union, as a way to distract those countries from engaging with countries like Armenia, which is a good neighbor to us, and we should give Armenia all the support that we can, and other countries in the Eastern Partnership who are declared willing to become European in the European Union sense, adhering to the basic Copenhagen criteria. So when we look broadly at hybrid threats, I think we have to look very much at the economic dependencies. If you have influential people doing a lot of business with Russia, then those people will also they will want to keep those relationships, and they will also then fund political movements that are in favor of such relationships and those kinds of ways of doing business. So if we want to eliminate the threat of economic coercion and oligarch financing of political movements that are against national sovereignty, then we will also have to look at changing our business practices and our general economic orientation. Another sector that's very important and that we feel in most European countries is the physical sabotage on critical infrastructure, and it's going on everywhere. There's GPS jamming, there is cutting of cables. We do believe that the big electricity problems in Spain were a hybrid attack. And this goes on all over Europe, and we have to address it. The objective of the enemy is to incur costs on our behalf, to distract us, to test our capabilities, but also very importantly, if you imagine yourself to being at war, then you also want to be ready to at a critical juncture, at a specific point in time, you can decapacitate a country from actually defending itself or defending others. And this is the long-term objective of attacks on the critical infrastructure. There are two very important directives that are addressing this. There is the critical CER, the critical entities resilience, which identifies a number of critical infrastructure that needs special attention and advises the EU member states to set up a dedicated organization to protect this. And there is also the Cyber Security Directive, the NIS2 is the latest one, which also identifies a number of critical entities where there needs to be protection and where there is actually oversight from the European Union to ensure that these entities are well protected. And I think for a country facing hybrid threats, it's just as important as the economic side and the disinformation side to address these issues. Thirdly, of course, is what has already been spoken about. It's the elections, and there we have to recognize that it's not about the election per se. It's not about supporting one party or the other. It's much broader than that. It's about shaping the cognitive environment of a country and shaping the view of reality. And this goes on not only during election campaigns, it goes on permanently. And here we need responses that go beyond election legislation, although it's very important, but we really have to look at third-party campaigning, and we also have to look at issues of reciprocity. If our information is not allowed in another country, then we should also think, why should that country's information be allowed in ours? Disinformation is it's been around for a while. In the beginning, people thought that, well, if they come with a lie, we have to debunk that lie. We have to tell people it's not true. But when the lie is out there, it's already too late. I think that we need a much more proactive approach. This is why we say strategic communication. And that is, we have to, if there is a vacuum of information from the government, then the malign actors can come with their version. So the government has to be permanently issuing, the democratic government has to explain all the time what it's doing. All public authorities have to be open and communicate with the citizens, telling them what they do, telling them statistics, telling them real facts. And then you will flood out the disinformation campaigns. You will not give them an information monopoly. So this is very important. Also here, of course, some European countries, and Moldova has also done it, is to create a strategic communication center, a specialized agency to do this. I think step one is really to do a thorough monitoring of the social media environment, to do actually research on where are these citizens, where do they get information, and also that's where government information should be, where public information should be, where democratic parties should be campaigning. So I think for this purpose of this conference, I just want to say a couple of things. I think that this needs an all-of-government approach. We have to look at hybrid as concerning everything, and we have to see it as a domain where we collaborate and coordinate. I think from the European Union side as well, as good partner, a lot of the shaping of the cognitive environment is saying that Europe is a bad thing, it's on decline, etc. And Europe has to defend itself. Europe is a great place to live. People are happy here. That's why people want to travel from around the world to live in Europe and not vice versa. But this message is getting drowned, and the resources spent on public diplomacy from the other side are much stronger. So it's not about the EU ambassador visiting 2 schools. It's actually about having a real diplomacy program. When we look at disinformation and people being sensitive to information, being vulnerable to information, one of the greatest predictors is nostalgia about the past, thinking that the Soviet Union somehow was a romantic, better time, and so on. We see that there's a big correlation between being nostalgic and believing in lies. And I think that our ministries of culture are just as important as anything else. I think that we really have to think about what gives people a common modern identity so that they don't look back. So we have to look at positive images of the future as well. Otherwise, people will dream about the past. And we need hope. One more thing that I think is very important is that all of the hybrid tactics are actually criminal activity, or 90% of them are criminal activity. So the police and the security police really need muscles to deal with it, and a lot of it, vote buying is illegal. So we put the police really trying to stifle vote buying and bring people to justice. And it goes for sabotage and so we are unfortunately in the place where we have to be policing a lot. On a positive note, I don't know if you're aware of the shortest novel ever written. It was written by a Guatemalan author called Augusto Montoroso, and I can read the whole novel to you. It goes like this. He woke up and the dinosaur was still there. Now, the bad news is that the dinosaur is there, but the good news is that we are now awake and we can do something. Thank you very much.
So, thank you very much. I'm very happy that the colleagues could fix connection to Helsinki so that we had the possibility to listen to you. That was very, very interesting. Now I have a small problem. We only have 20 minutes left, and I have 3 people who already raised their hand for questions. And I think we have about 5 to 10 minutes for the discussion, and then we have to discuss our last point on the agenda. On my list there is Mr. Sanchez-Amor, the first, then it's Mr. Kandanian, Mr. Zieper, and who's the fourth? No, this is 3, yes, and Mr. Ayev. I would like to collect all these questions, and then we give the possibility that Mr. Engby can act to these questions, and then we can close this point on our agenda. So, Mr. Sanchez-Amor, you have the table.
Yeah, thank you. In my case, it's a comment following the previous discussion on the domestic issues here in Armenia. Listen, geopolitics could trigger a process of enlargement. Always happened in the history, in the Mediterranean new democracies, in the east of Europe. Always geopolitics has been the fact that triggered but the procedures and the merit-based procedure to be member of the European Union is as it is. Meaning nobody can go to Brussels saying, I'm suffering an external threat. What we are going to examine, if finally Armenia is a candidate to the European Union, is that kind of domestic things that has been evoked here. It's not going about the political prisoners, it's not going about the close border with Turkey. It's about what happened overnight in the cities of Armenia when you need, apparently, I'm not in a position to judge, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 policemen to detain a people. And this is a kind of substance. If this is a bribery accusation, it's okay. But if the accusation is regarding an opinion in the social media, be careful, be cautious, because we know for sure what happened when you start to accusing and to prosecuting people just for writing things in the social media. It's not only the substance, it's the method. In a democracy, when the bells rings during the night, it's the milkman. It's never a command of police detaining one single person. It's exactly what happened with the mayor of Istanbul. You don't need to send 100 police to detain a mayor. You send a communication that this person has to be summoned to this court in this day. Because if not, you are labeling the person just for the fact of the detention as a dangerous person. Then I'm not in position to judge the cases that has been evoked by some colleagues, but you have to be aware, the Armenian authorities, the Armenian political parties, this is the kind of thing you are going to be examined on if you are a candidate country. And for that reason, I think it's good that you start to do things. There are many heritage from the Soviet legal system. The abuse of the detention. You are accused, you go to jail, and then we see. And there are many ministers of justice trying to struggle with this historical heritage. If you are accused, you go to jail, and then we see what happens. Please be aware of that kind of things, because it's the kind of thing we are going to examine, I hope, in the next years regarding Armenia. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next is Mr. Kandanian, then Mr. Zieper and Mr. Arif, and please keep it quite brief. And Raza, okay, you're the last one, but keep it brief.
Thank you very much, distinguished co-chairs. I want to thank our experts, civil society representatives for their presentations. Especially, it was very interesting to listen to our Moldovan colleague who was talking about hybrid threats against Moldova. We are seeing quite similar patterns emerging also in Armenia, because we are 6 months away from the general elections. Anyways, but I would like, first of all, to welcome everyone in Armenia. It's an honor and pleasure to have you all in Yerevan. And we are meeting in Armenia in a quite different environment now. Since August 8, the situation has changed, and we can firmly say that peace has been established between Armenia and Azerbaijan. But of course, as Edgar mentioned, it's still quite fragile. And we need to cherish and we need to do everything to make peace irreversible. It's very important that there is also already a vision of how we are going to unblock the South Caucasus region, how we are going to open the borders, roads, infrastructure between Armenia and Azerbaijan, but also beyond. And with this vision, with the trip route that was announced in Washington, I think we are also becoming quite closer to the European Union. But not only us as the region, but also I think through this we are also bringing the Central Asia closer to the European Union. And I think that it's a very viable guarantee for peace for our region, the economic cooperation and opening the roads and other infrastructure. Of course, there are a number of outstanding issues. The issue of prisoners of war and other detainees in Azerbaijan remains top priority on the agenda, the issue of missing people. And I think this new established situation between Armenia and Azerbaijan makes it a bit easier to discuss these topics, and they are continuously being discussed. Well, I cannot but not address the internal state of affairs in Armenia. My colleague from the opposition is surprised why civil society representative
Please keep
is
it
not.
brief. Yes, we are running out of time.
Just 30 seconds. Why he is not mentioning that there are political prisoners in Armenia, because there are not political prisoners in Armenia, and it's known for everyone. I can count in my hand how many people think that there are political prisoners in Armenia. I want to say since 2018, we have no compromise with corruption. We have no compromise with threats to democracy, independence and sovereignty of our country. We cannot tolerate that Russian oligarchs can come to Armenia and commit crimes and then dictate how they can save Armenia. We had enough savers, and we do not. The people of Armenia do not need savers, especially from outside of Armenia. So I think this discussion was quite timely in terms of hybrid threats, and I hope that we can continue discussing this topic also tomorrow during the plenary. Thank you.
Thank you. The next one is Mr. Sieper, and then Mr. Arif, and the last one is then Raza.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It breaks my heart that we in Eastern Europe and the Southern Caucasus still have to speak about war, that peace is not the natural state of our two regions. I want to express my deepest hope that the peace between Armenia and Azerbaijan will hold in a way that preserves the dignity and the honor of both people. We must also remember that the European Union is also a defense union, as laid down in Article 42, number 7 of the Treaty on the European Union, which binds us to mutual assistance in the face of armed aggression, except for a few member states that have chosen neutrality. One might wonder from a distance whether such neutrality still fits in an age where aggression is no longer theoretical, but visible on every border. As the Union moves step by step towards building a shared European defense capability, not for conquest, but for collective protection, I would like to address a question to the last expert who spoke. To what extent can the Eastern Partnership serve as a forum to strengthen military cooperation in the spirit of shared security and resilience? And just to conclude, let me say, as someone who believes in peace between all people and love and empathy between human beings, it normally gives me no joy to ask such a question, except because I know it irritates the Russian agent who is listening to our meeting today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we go to Mr. Arif.
Try to be brief. Well, the current hybrid threats now turn into hybrid warfare against Europe. And the same situation were in Ukraine before full-scale aggression. So I have a question, what exact response and how hard response could be from European Union institution as an answer to, first of all, Russian increasing budget for propaganda for the next year on 54%. It's a huge amount, and you know how Russia spend it for in social media, in some through their some vocal agents, etc. And Russia also now support the growing of radical wings in European society with all possible manners. So what do you think? How can it be stopped with real actions in the closest time? Thank you.
Thank you. Before we give the possibility to answer, Rasa, is it maybe you ask your question or your comment?
Question and little bit short comment on it's very important topic, of course, and here being in Yerevan, and when I am listening colleagues from Armenian opposition in the context of hybrid warfare, and also what my colleague Sanchez Amor mentioned about justice and the role of courts, role of justice, mean both sides to use courts as a tool for regimes, and also vice versa, to use real justice to fight the disinformation, as it happened in Moldova. Because in Moldova, Russians, Kremlin, they pay directly money to politicians who favor them, so state must defend themselves and use all possible tools, including justice. So also the last sentence and the question also, maybe we can also in the European Union and in our expert level to elaborate more on this level, how to protect our democracy using our justice, independent justice tools. In Armenia, look, now I will be very open, saying that I was shocked last year when I noticed that opposition parties, some of them, they have official, direct relationship with Putin's party, Yedinaya Rossiya. So it's question mark, but it's about the next election as well. It's also about hybrid. Do we think that Russia, Kremlin will not use those tools, direct tools? Question mark.
Thank you, Rasa. And before we give Mr. Engby the chance to answer and to react the things we discussed here, the last one is Mr. Yerevan. He wanted to raise something, and then we go to Helsinki, and then we close this part of the debate.
Yeah, I wanted to make a comment on what Mr. Sanchez Amor said about the opinion. Well, our criminal code, and I guess the criminal codes of all of the European countries, they contain crimes which are expressed by calls, by words, by calling for something. For example, calling for violence, calling for terrorism, calling for coup d'etat. So, and sorry, but in our country, maybe, yes, someone in his head might have such an opinion, as you said, an opinion, but once expressed, this is a crime. And this is exactly what many of the people that we are talking about are in jail now for expressing an opinion that there should be a coup d'etat. This is a crime in Armenia, and I guess in all European countries. As for the other detainee, Mr. Karapetyan, for your information, he's the richest living Armenian in the world, with a net worth of about 4 billion euros, and saying by this kind of a person that if not politicians, then we will do things in our way, well, it might be perceived as an intimidation in a way, because there is a question, what is his way, if not political? Because in politics, things are done in political way. If there is something in opposition to political ways expressed by the richest living Armenian, then there is a question, what is this other or our way of doing things, or their way of doing things? Just a short information for your information. Thanks.
Thank you. So, Mr. Engby in Helsinki, it's a chance to react to the comments and the questions we had raised here in the room. Did you get everything? So the floor is yours for some closing remarks from your side.
On my side?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Great. All right, thank you. It's really interesting to participate in the discussion, and I think it's very important. We are addressing all the right questions, including actually recognizing that this is not only a problem in the neighborhood of Europe; it's a problem in Europe with radicalization, etc. And I think that. If we look back to 1945 and the Cold War period, media was regulated. TV was regulated, radio was regulated in most European countries, and we still felt that we lived in a democracy. So you can regulate media and be democratic at the same time. When we look at the big tech giants today, they refrain from the responsibility of being publishers. They say we are providing the service, the communication service. Well, in this case, it is critical infrastructure. It's critical to our countries, and it has to be regulated like any critical infrastructure. I know that there are many good initiatives on the level of the European Union. There is a Democracy Shield, and there is a DSA, and there is other legislation coming. This has to be set up, and it has to be watertight. Otherwise, our democracies will be lost. When looking what the Europe should do, which was one of the questions, I think also because the US is pulling back, Europe has to be very strong on media support, the support for independent media, and it has to be, sorry to say, truly independent, because it cannot be the cheerleader of a democratic government or an opposition. It has to really maintain its independence, otherwise it will lose its credibility. Importantly, in my experience in Moldova, and I don't know how it is in all of the countries, there was this idea that, well, this country is going to be de-Russified, and we will not have state media in the Russian language, which is completely leaving a walkover to Russian-produced TV. And this is one of the things that changed in the last 4 years, the attitude of the government, starting both a public service channel and also one of the private channels with the European funding started the transmissions in Russian. And this is really what has to happen if you want to speak to all the minorities. And this goes for the Baltic countries as well. Then I cannot emphasize enough the cultural part of all of this. This is a culture war. This is the worldview war. And even if roads and infrastructure is very important and the citizens appreciate it, they also need, you do not live on roads alone. Yeah, there has to be much more exchange. We can think anew. It doesn't have to be highbrow culture. It doesn't reach the common man. But bringing, for instance, popular music acts from the West to all countries, there's not enough business for them in going, so it has to be subsidized. But we really have to remind people that Europe is not only the rainbow flag, but it's also a lot of other things. It's baguettes in France, it's Italian serenades, it's Spanish beaches, etc. We have to actually sell Europe. We may not be used to it. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you very much, Mr. Engby, and for taking part in this discussion. And we wish you a good flight to Yerevan this afternoon. If you have time, please join us here tomorrow in the National Parliament. It would be for sure interesting to continue debates with you and discussion. It was very, very nice to talk to you this morning and to listen to you. It was very informative. Thank you very much. All the best. And so we are closing this point on our agenda, and I would like to hand over to Armand for our last point, the discussion on the next topic for the report of our committee.
Thank you, Oliver. So we proceed to our next point, point number 6, exchange of views and selection of the topics for the next report of the committee. Our next item on the agenda concerns the selection of the topic. All delegations were invited to submit proposals for consideration by the Political Affairs Committee, and the topics are the following. From Ukrainian delegation, we received a topic building a new security architecture in Europe, experience of Russian war against Ukraine, conflicts between Armenia and Azerbaijan, in Georgia and Moldova, hybrid aggression against EU states. End of quotation. From members of Armenian delegation, Ms. Maria Karapetyan and Mr. Sarkis Khandanyan, we received the following topic: election integrity in times of hybrid threats to democracy and foreign malign influence. End of quotation. From a member of European Parliament, Mannert, we have received 2 topics, and these are: how can cooperation between the Euronest countries be further strengthened? And the second one, what joint strategies can the Euronest countries develop to counter cyber attacks and tackle disinformation? So overall, we have 4 possible topics. If there are any comments, please, Mr. Lukas Saiper.
I would like to propose 2 more topics, if that's possible.
I'm afraid no.
No? Oh, okay, then I misread
the deadline
the procedural.
has passed. We have 4 possible topics which I have just read. Please, Mr. Sanchez-Amor.
The idea is to have a clear picture that sometimes is lacking, that the results of the efforts of the Euronest countries regarding corruption. There are many new bodies and many new legal structures tackling corruption, but we don't have a clear picture of what has been the results of these efforts. This is going to be our written
to take into consideration while voting.
Suggestion for the next poll committee. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other opinions? Please, Mr. Krulko.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. I just want to add to other proposition. Our proposition is to have our new topic of report, building a new security architecture in Europe, taking into account the military aggression of the Russian Federation against Ukraine, conflicts in the countries of the Eastern Partnership, Russian hybrid attacks against EU member states.
So it's a new proposal?
So this is the same, but just a few amendments.
I'm afraid it's impossible.
It's possible. Why not? Just to change, we can change it. Why not? Due to our rules of procedure, we proposed our topic, but now we can change it, and maybe we combine some other ideas to one to have one decision, because we have to choose which topic is next. So and I want to say that position of our delegation from Ukraine, that security issues are the most important in European Union and in Eastern Partnership states for next years. So that's why I think we have to concentrate, yes, to have to concentrate on this topic about security issues in Eastern Partnership countries and as well in European Union. Thank you.
Well, if we edit the topic that you have suggested, we should also take into consideration the suggestion of Mr. Saiper. The opposite wouldn't be fair, because changing even if you edit, it's a matter of discussion to what extent it is changed, by 50%, by 60%, by 70%. So we will go into discussions which will not end. So if the co-chair, and as I see the members of the committee are not against allowing Ukrainian delegation to edit their topic, I would suggest to listen one more time to Mr. Saiper and to allow him to add one more topic for voting.
We already sent our topic to co-chairs. But now I just want to change some words inside the topic we presented before. So we don't, this is not new topic, but they change some words inside the topic to be wording, to be more clear.
Yes, Mr. Krulko, some words might decide the fate of Nobel Prize for Peace and Literature. Some words are very important. Some words might be decisive. So, and as far as I can remember, you changed not just one or two words, but the whole concept was different, which is okay. And let's give a chance to our colleague to do the same, or nearly the same. The opposite wouldn't be fair. Please, Mr. Zeiper.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I studied law, so I love discussions like this. I will then propose to not make too much of a ruckus, just one instead of two. I would like to propose the topic upholding the rule of law and mutual accountability in the EU and Eastern Partnership, as I think that the rule of law and being honest about the rule of law between us partner nations is one of the cornerstones of the fight for democracy today. Thank you.
I will just ask you to send it here in written form, okay? Please, Mr. Yeah, please, Mr. Aurelius.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, as I understand, if there is no disagreement, it sounds very logic after listening the presentations to maybe to have some at least minor corrections, including the hybrid threats and other important things, if we might send it to the Secretariat, the proposals. I would also support the idea of that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This is exactly what we have done. Mm-hmm. Any other comments?
Maybe I can make a proposal as a conclusion of the different proposals here and our short debate. I think the mentioned topics are very close. And so I think we can form one topic out of these 5-6 proposals. And so building an architecture in Europe with the experiences from the war, and to include the proposals of hybrid attacks there, the rule of law aspect, also the proposals of our colleague Menard, and of course the one from the Armenian delegation, what does it mean to these hybrid attacks to have votings, yes? Also in mind what we just learned a few minutes ago from Moldova. And I think of all these different things, we can form a very strong initiative and a strong title for the next
we might need
topic.
a time. For that, for your suggestion, we will need a time to combine, to bring them together in one text. We
write this text for the next for the next year, for the next meeting. But if we agree that we will put all these things together, then it should be possible that we can decide on this and that we have this topic on the agenda. Huh?
Then we should have afterwards an online voting. Yeah, Mr. Handanyan, rules of procedure.
So we try to formulate a topic, and then we will send it to the bureau tomorrow morning, and then we can vote on this tomorrow morning.
Please, Mr. Handanyan.
I completely agree with co-chair. I think we are deciding on the topic, not the title. So I completely agree that we can combine all of them, also as one of the proposers of the topic, and then come up with the wording title.
Yeah. So,
okay. So effectively, then we delay the voting till tomorrow, and till then we will try to combine all the titles into one topic and vote tomorrow. Is it okay then? Thank you. Thank you very much. And by saying this, we pass to number 7, any other business? Any other additional remarks, points, who wishes to raise this under this item? If not, then I should conclude our meeting. Thank you very much for your participation and active input, dear colleagues. The meeting, and thank you, Mr. Schenk, for co-chairing the meeting. The meeting is over. Thanks.